Hey guys, it's me, it's Queen Auset-Heru, and thank you for joining me for today's edition of The Witch Trials. Today, I am putting on trial the movie Suspiria. Suspiria is actually from 2018, and it is a remake of a 1977 movie of the same name. And I particularly liked it when I first saw it because I was born in 77. So I was like, okay, cool. So I wanted to check out how this movie compared to the other one. I watched clips from the other one, and this movie is totally different. And I want to tell you up front, I am going to first start off by giving you a summary of this film, just a short one. Then I'm going to tell you about the virtues and the vices. The virtues always come after the vices. The vices are the things that cannot possibly happen, or they happen in such an exaggerated way that it couldn't possibly be real witchcraft. The virtues are the things about the movie that were pretty accurate, or things that I really liked about the movie. So I'm going to tell you up front, I did not like this movie. This movie was heralded by my friends as being a great classic. And I could understand why they said that, because artistically speaking, this is a very artistic film. You know, I love art. I love seeing visual art. I love art of all kinds. But this movie, to me, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I just didn't like it. But there were parts about it that I did like that we'll get to later. So let me tell you a little summary about this movie. Basically, this movie is about a young girl named Susie. And Susie is the main character. She comes to Berlin in 1977, and she tries out, she auditions to be in a dance company. Very quickly, she gets in and she moves up. You know, she's taken on by the main dance instructor. They love her work, they love her movements, and she seems to be the perfect fit. So they take her in, and then slowly but surely she starts to realize that something about this place ain't right. People are calling the head, you know, the matrons, the mothers of the house, witches. There's all kinds of speculation and anger and things going on. One girl screams at the head woman and calls her a witch. She finds out that some girls are missing even, like what the hell happened to them. And all through this, as she's finding things out, she's just kind of filing it. You don't really see her responding to it. There's also a doctor in it who is actually investigating, because one of the girls that went missing came to him and told him that it was ran by a coven of witches, and she left some of her personal materials before she went missing at his home. So he goes through her diary, and he sees all these notes that she's made about these witches and what they're doing and all kinds of stuff. He thinks that she's just having, you know, these paranoid, you know, delusions. But the more and more he questions it, the more and more he realizes that she's actually right. So this movie is, like I said, a horror movie. So you do see some blood and some gore, and I'll get to that later. But you see some of that, and a lot of suspense. This movie left you with a lot of questions, and then they would answer some of them. You know, when I finished watching it, I was sitting there like, huh? I had to actually go to YouTube and look at other people reviewing the movie and explaining the movie to understand the parts that I just like didn't comprehend. And come to find out, I did comprehend them. It was areas where they wanted you to connect the dots yourself. And I was like, did I connect these dots right? And I did. But I just didn't like that aspect of it. Maybe I just wanted things, you know, written out for me a little bit neater. So now let's get into the vices. First of all, there is a dance scene in the very beginning when the young lady Susie is auditioning. And as she's dancing and doing her thing, her body movements are creating a spell. So the way that the coven, mothers have done it is when this girl dances, it's going to create a spell on another girl who just left. She left the room screaming about how they're witches, and she's trying to escape, but she ends up in this empty room. And as the girl is auditioning, her movements are breaking her bones. So they're slamming her into the wall, they're slamming her to the floor. They're creating physical pain, they're crushing her bones, her jaw like dislocates. It's very graphic, and eventually she doesn't die, but she's really banged up. And they come in the room and take these hooks and these hooks into her body, like 6 of them, and drag her bleeding body out of the room. So they explained that this was a spell, and I've never seen a spell like this, even though you could create a spell like this, but this is greatly exaggerated, and I mean greatly. You could create a spell where when you do certain movements, it causes certain things to happen, but it wouldn't be instantaneous and gory and bloody and throwing this child around like it was in this movie. The next one, bewitching the cops with mind control. They bewitch the cops. They bewitch Sarah. They bewitch a lot of people in this movie with mind control. And this is very common in witch movies, and I have to vice it every single time. Every single time, because it is definitely a sin. Every single time. And the reason why I do that is because you cannot bewitch and mind control someone like this. The cop was standing there naked. They stripped the cop and were like laughing at his penis. Like I was like, wow, that's messed up. But they stripped him and was like laughing at him, and he was just standing there like a zombie and couldn't move, couldn't respond, and then didn't remember anything that happened while he was there. They had this bewitching ability, and they did this to a lot of people. The main character even does it to the old man who's investigating at the end of the movie. And witches absolutely cannot do this. You can make a person hallucinate with herbs and potions and things like that, but there's no way that you're going to mentally, psychically bewitch, or even with a spell, bewitch somebody to the point where not only do they do whatever you tell them to do, but they don't remember anything you told them to do afterwards. That does not work. It would be kind of messed up if it did, actually, but that doesn't work. Dreams and nightmares. A lot of witches and psychic people do have dreams and nightmares, but these dreams and nightmares are like really weird because everybody in the building is having these dreams. So at one point, the head mother, or the lead dance instructor, whatever you want to call her, who is played by Tilda Swinton, and I really love Tilda Swinton, by the way. I'm gonna talk about her performance, but she is, I guess, making them have these nightmares. She's putting these dreams in their mind. And I was like, it's no way in God's green earth everybody in the building would be having the same dreams every day. And that's what's happening. And it's like all these girls in the dance company. We're talking like 20, 30 girls, plus, whoever else is there. And they're all having these nightmares. And they're talking about how they can't sleep. And they're having the same dreams. And I'm like, it's no way in God's green earth you would be able to do any kind of spell that's going to make everybody have the same dream every night. It's extremely exaggerated. Even though we do have dreams, we do some of us do dream work, but it's not like this. This is extremely exaggerated and unrealistic. The power of instant healing. This is another one that I see a lot, and I mention a lot, and we discuss a lot. So I'm not going to take much time on it. But basically, they can heal anything. If you have a broken arm, they can heal it in seconds. If you have cuts and scrapes, they can just touch you and it's gone. And nobody is healing. I don't care what kind of spell you got. Nobody's healing a broken leg, a broken arm, flesh hanging wide open in a matter of seconds. It's just not going to happen. And I see this a lot in movies, and it's just wishful thinking. If that was the case, nobody would ever die. Hardly nobody would leave because we would keep them alive if we had the power of instant healing. But it's just terribly unrealistic, and I see it in a lot of movies, and it's definitely a vice. Telepathically talking. At one point, Tilda Swinton's character, her name is Madame Blanc. She's sitting next to Susie, the main character, and they're talking telepathically, like having a whole conversation. And yes, people can telepathically talk to each other, and when they're awake and when they're sleeping. But I have never seen it. I've never seen two witches sit next to each other and have a full-blown conversation with paragraphs and do it in their mind. Now, I do believe in telepathy. There have been times when I've looked at somebody and thought something and they caught it. I think that's something that's pretty common actually, but it was never a full-blown conversation. Maybe a thought or a word or an image, something like that. And somebody who's more skilled than me might be able to convey more, but I don't think they're going to convey between two witches entire conversations. So again, it's possible, but extremely over exaggerated. Causing hallucinations. They cause people to hallucinate in this movie the same way we see hallucinations in other witch movies. Again, this is not going to happen. Not like that. Not from them. Like the gentleman that's in the movie, the old man who's investigating, they make him see his wife. His wife is dead. And they make him see his wife and talk to her and hug her and hold her and walk around with her. And the next thing you know, he's standing there in front of the dance studio. And the witches run outside, grab him, and take him inside. And I'm sitting there looking like, yeah, that's definitely not going to happen. They didn't give him a potion. They didn't put nothing in his drink, nothing. They just, made him see it. And that is not going to happen. Not like that. That's totally, totally exaggerated. Then they had a nude ritual. Now, I'm going to give it to you. A lot of pagans do nude rituals. Some people call it sky-clad rituals. And they are frequent. And they're not always sexual intent as you would think, that they're orgies or something like that. Sometimes it's just a matter of doing the ritual, but everybody's just naked. It's the normal progression, though, of doing the ritual. No actual sex happens. Now, sometimes it depends on the coven. It depends on the culture. It depends on the group. There could be something sexual going on. But nude sky-clad rituals do occur. But it occurs in the movie in a way that's just totally unrealistic. Like the girls are making their bodies into the altar and then they're dancing. And it's just like what the hell is going on here? Like I've seen sky-clad rituals. I've seen them in a circle, holding hands, doing chants. I do rituals sky-clad. I've never done them with others. I always do them by myself. But I've done ritual sky-clad almost every time I do a ritual. But it's like I said, it's not this weird kind of thing. It's just like you're doing the same thing you would do with clothes on versus they were doing some kind of cryptic dance. And I was just like, what the hell is this? So yeah, sky-clad rituals do happen, but this I had to vice because it was just over the top. A being killing the unloyal. At the end, she summons a death being, some kind of thing. I don't know what it is, a demon or some kind of thing. And she summons it and it kills everybody in the room who is not loyal, who is loyal to Mother Marcos, I think was her name, but not loyal to her. Because we had two different factions going on in this dance studio. We have two different women who want to be the leaders, the head. And one is Madame Blanc, and the other one is Mother Marcos. So in the very beginning, they do like a vote to see who's going to be in charge, and Mother Marcos wins because everybody believes that Mother Marcos is this ancient, strong being, and come to find out, Mother Marcos is faking, and she's not that being. So she won, but she won based on a lie. So at the end, when the real being shows up, come to find out, spoiler alert, Susie is that real being. And Mother Marcos has been pretending for all these centuries to be her. Now she's reincarnated and has a body, and she's come back to take control of the coven. So she summons this evil being to kill everybody in the room that is not loyal to her. Anybody who voted for Mother Marcos dies and their head explodes, basically. And this evil being is the one that did it. Now, I'm not going to say that you can't summon demons, because you actually can. There's actually what is it called? It's called the Lesser Keys of Solomon. And from what I understand, because I never read it, but from what I understand, there's books like that one and other ones that do indeed tell you that. Of course, most people with common sense stay away from this kind of thing because it can obviously be very dangerous. So I'm not going to say it can't happen. It can, but it's extremely over exaggerated the way that it is here. Because usually the being isn't a physical being from what I've read. Because mind you, I've never experienced this before. This is something I wouldn't even go nowhere near. But I've heard and read that the being, if you do summon something like this, it's a spiritual being, not a physical being. This being was a physical being, and it came in the room and killed all these people. So I had to give that advice too, because it is terribly over exaggerated. Even though something similar could happen, it wouldn't be this exaggerated. Let's see. And oh, here's another one. I got three more. Three more vices. Can you believe it? Human sacrifice. Let's talk about human sacrifice. A lot of times witches are accused of human sacrifices. I've never been to a human sacrifice. I would never go to some shit like that. That if I even thought they were going to do something like that, I wouldn't be there. I have seen a goat sacrifice when I was in Africa. Animals often are sacrificed. And usually, like I saw this in the Akan tradition, so they sacrificed it and then ate it. It was dinner basically, but they did a whole ceremony around the sacrifice and using its blood and using all of its parts and things like that. Other things are sacrificed, other animals, chickens, things like that. Other animals, usually, I'm trying to think what other kind of animals they might sacrifice. I'm thinking like small animals, bunnies, things like that. Generally, it's something that you're going to eat for dinner. So those kind of things. Are human sacrifices done? Not that I have ever experienced, but I have been told by my elders that they have gone on. I was told at one point in time that when the king of the group, I was told this by the Akan, and they were telling me that sometimes in Africa, in certain African traditions and certain cultures, when the king or the leader died, they would sacrifice people to kind of usher him, to go with him. So that's one time that I know of human sacrifices. Also, if you read history, you will see other pagan human sacrifices. Like right here in Costa Rica, I was reading about one that happened with the volcano. That a particular group believed if a virgin was thrown into the volcano, that the volcano wouldn't erupt. So human sacrifices have happened. Since the beginning of time, they've happened. And do they still happen? I don't have any evidence of them happening because they are illegal, but I would not be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me. I hope not. I really truthfully do, but it wouldn't surprise me at all based on those stories that I've been told. And the last, when he was telling me the story about the kings, passing over and them sending servants to die with them, he was talking about like the 1970s. So he wasn't talking about something that happened a long time ago. He was talking about something that he witnessed in his lifetime. So I don't know if this still goes on, but I gave it a vice anyway because they made it seem like it's something that happens every day. Like, like witches just stand around and sacrifice humans. Like that's just what we do. And it's not what we do. I've never experienced that. And that's what made me vice it, because I was like, if this does occur, it doesn't occur as normally as they portrayed it in this movie. It was actually disturbing to me to see something like that. They were like playing with her organs, or not playing with them, but like preying on them and holding them. And the whole thing to me was just gross. It was just gross. And that was the next vice. My next vice on this movie has nothing to do with witchcraft. My vice is that this movie is gross. This movie is gory. They're playing with organs. They're slamming this girl around. Her jaw just dislocates. Her leg breaks. Her bones crushed. I mean, it was awful. There was blood at the end. There was so much blood everywhere. Heads exploding. There was blood everywhere. It was just awful. It was so gory. If you like blood and gore, it's not that much. If you don't like blood and gore, it's too much. So that whole part was yuck. And my last vice, Mother Marcos. I mentioned her before. Mother Marcos was trying to change bodies with another young girl. Her whole thing was her body was old and decrepit. Mother Marcos was like maybe a couple 100 years old, and her body was all mangled, as you can probably imagine. And Mother Marcos wanted to put her soul into a young girl's body, which was Susie, the main character. But she found out that Susie was actually a more powerful witch than her, who had been reincarnated. So she wasn't able to do it. But this idea of body swapping, I've heard a lot from people. And you cannot body swap. You cannot take your soul and put it into another person. Witches do not have that ability. It's been rumored since the beginning of time, but it's truthfully not one of the abilities that we have. It's just something that I guess maybe because people would like that. People would like to be able to do that. So I guess that's why. So this movie had 12 vices, and it only has 10 virtues, only 10 things that I liked. So 12 is quite high. What did I like about this movie? I like the concept of the three mothers. This movie is based on the concept that there are three eternal earth mothers. Tears, sighs, and darkness. The mother of tears, the mother of sighs, the mother of darkness. And these three mothers are from the beginning of time, and they are the leaders of all of the witches in this universe. So I like that because if you read pagan history, and if you read the history of the earth, the mother comes first, the goddess comes first. So I really did like that aspect of it. The main character, Susie, was infused with energy in her feet and her hands before she danced. The house mother, Tilda Swinton, took her hands and put them on her feet and put them on her hands and like gave her energy some kind of way. It reminded me very much of Reiki. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I like that. That shows something that could actually happen. The dance teacher had energy in her hands as well. So it seemed like to me like it was her palm chakras. So I like that too. It also said here, I like the fact that the witches the matrons were rumored to be witches. It kind of built up the suspense of the plot for me, because it was like, are they witches or are people just crazy? So I like that aspect of it. There were missing girls again, which was like suspicious. And it's like, did these women just go missing? Because you're in the middle of 1977, so there's a lot of protests and things going on in Berlin. So it's like, did they just get caught up in the political aspect, or did these girls get murdered by a coven of witches? The characters can feel energy. So to me, it's like a psychic connection, like a psychic bond. So I thought that was really cool. A psychic bond between them and each other, and of course with the mothers. So I thought that was cool as well. I like the concept of the maiden, the mother, and the crone, because you have the maiden, which is the young girls that are there. You have the mothers, which are the witches that are there. And then you have the crone, which are the mothers, the ancient mothers. So you have the contemporary mothers, and then you have the ancient ones that I would call the crones. So I like that concept because they show that's really real in paganism. So I like the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Madame Blanc. It was played by Tilda Swinton. I love Tilda. I loved her performance. I love her in everything I see her in. So her performance is excellent, and she plays three characters in this. She plays Madame LeBlanc. She plays the guy, the old man who is looking for the young girl that's missing. And she also plays Mother Marcos, who is the main antagonist. She plays her too and has on like all of this prosthetic makeup to make her look old and decrepit. And in the other case, she has on all this makeup to make her look like a man. So she plays three different roles in this movie, and she does an excellent job. The acting is superb and it's very artistic. I like the artistic way. I like the acting. All of the characters did a good job, especially the main character, Susie. She did a good job as well. So I like the acting, and I do like the artistic, like the symbolism. You see a lot of symbolism in this movie. I like that too. But the things I didn't like is where the movie had an issue. So based on what I've said, I have 12 vices and 10 virtues. So already you see it's more vices than virtues. So I disliked more things than I actually liked. This movie, I am giving a D. Not because, a lot of people would give this movie an A just for the cinematography and for that aspect of it. But as far as it being on trial for witch accuracy, I would give it a D. Because it does have those 10 virtues that I mentioned, but it has a lot of stuff that just can't happen and some stuff that just shouldn't happen. So that was really important to me. So this movie for me is I didn't like it as far as entertainment was concerned, and I didn't like how it portrayed witches. It portrays us as human sacrificing psychopaths who occasionally go out to eat with occasionally they went out to dinner and got drunk together, So I definitely did not like it. A lot of people disagree with me though. This movie is well received by a lot of people. So if you want to see it, it is worth checking out. But if you want to see something that is going to portray witches accurately, you can skip this one. This has actually got the worst grade of any movie that I've done here at the Witch Trials. Okay? All right, guys. So if you check out this movie, let me know in the comment section your feelings about this movie. Okay? All right, guys. It's time for me to get going. So remember, come back next week because I'll be putting another movie on trial. See you later.